You finally stopped reaching out. You stopped rereading old messages, watching their stories, or wondering what you did wrong. You were beginning to make peace with the fact that maybe they just weren't ready to love you the way you needed. And then out of nowhere they come back. A message, a like, a casual hey. And suddenly your healing feels shaken. You start to question everything again. What does it mean? Are they finally ready? Did they realize they lost something real? Hey, I'm Jim Rohn, and in today's video we're going to talk about one of the most confusing and emotionally loaded moments after a breakup with an avoidant partner, when they come back. Because yes, avoidants almost always come back, but their return doesn't necessarily mean they've changed. And if you're not prepared, you can find yourself right back in a cycle that took you months to climb out of. If you've ever loved someone who pulled away the closer you got, someone who seemed fine letting you carry the emotional weight of the relationship, someone who made you feel like wanting connection was too much, this video is for you. Because I want you to see this clearly before you get pulled back in. There's nothing wrong with hoping for growth, but hope without boundaries can turn into self-betrayal. In this video, I'll guide you through why avoidants often come back once you've detached, what's really going on emotionally behind that return, and how to tell if their reappearance is rooted in real change or just comfort and habit. Most importantly, I'll help you protect what you've worked so hard to rebuild, your peace, your clarity, and your sense of self-worth. So if you're in that place where they've reappeared or you're wondering if they ever will, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with me. Because this isn't just about whether they come back. It's about whether you're going to let yourself go back to a version of love that hurts you. Let's get into it. Let's start with what a lot of people don't expect to hear. Yes, avoidants often do come back, but it's usually not for the reason you're hoping. It's not because they've suddenly had an emotional breakthrough or gone to therapy and worked through their intimacy fears. More often, their return is triggered by something much simpler and far less romantic: emotional safety. See, avoidants feel overwhelmed when someone is emotionally available, especially if that person is asking for connection, clarity, or commitment. When you were reaching out, expressing your needs, or even just showing consistent love, it likely felt like pressure to them. So they withdrew. They distanced themselves to protect their comfort zone. But once you stop, once you pull back your energy, stop texting, stop chasing, and focus on yourself, you become emotionally safe again. There's no more pressure, no more expectation, and in that quiet, your absence creates a kind of emotional space they can tolerate. It's ironic, really, they miss you most when you stop trying. That's when they start to romanticize the past. They forget how they felt smothered and remember the comfort of your presence. They don't think about what was required of them emotionally, they think about what you gave. The warmth, the support, the emotional effort, and that's what they come back for. But here's the catch: just because they miss the connection doesn't mean they're ready to invest in it. There's a huge difference between missing someone and being emotionally prepared to show up for them. This is where many people get pulled back into the same dynamic, thinking they came back, this must mean they're finally ready. But in most cases, they're not. They're just reacting to a temporary feeling of discomfort or loneliness, not making a long-term decision to change. Think of it like this: you were the emotional anchor in the relationship. When you're gone, they feel ungrounded. But instead of doing the work to become grounded on their own, they come back to the person who made them feel safe, you. And that doesn't necessarily mean they've learned how to give that safety in return. So when they return, it's not a sign of transformation, it's often just a reset. And unless they've done serious inner work during the time apart, the same problems will surface again. The avoidant is still emotionally unavailable. You're still left doing most of the emotional labor, and the cycle begins all over. This is why your clarity is so important. If you understand that their return is usually about comfort, not commitment, you won't get swept away by the moment. You can meet it with grounded curiosity instead of blind hope. And that's where your real power begins, by seeing their return for what it truly is, not what you wish it would be. Let's talk about one of the most misunderstood things in avoidant behavior: distance feels safe for them. Unlike someone with a secure or even anxious attachment style who craves closeness to feel safe, avoidants feel safest when there's space. Emotional intimacy, vulnerability, even simple conversations about needs or feelings, these things can overwhelm them. It's not because they don't care, and it's not because they're incapable of love. It's because closeness activates a deep-rooted fear that they'll lose their independence, be judged, or be engulfed by emotional responsibility. So when things start to get too real, too consistent, or too emotionally close, their instinct is to pull back. This is why when you start to detach, when you stop texting first, stop checking in, stop giving them all that emotional access, they don't feel rejected. They feel relieved. The pressure is off. The tension that they felt in their nervous system when you were emotionally available suddenly disappears. And ironically, that's often what causes them to circle back around. When the emotional demand is gone, they can start to miss you again. Not necessarily because they've had a change of heart or are now ready to engage in a healthy, open relationship, but because you no longer feel emotionally intense to them. Here's where it gets tricky, because to you, your distance might feel like healing. And it is. You're finally reclaiming your energy. You're focusing on yourself. But to the avoidant, your detachment feels safe. It feels familiar. And that emotional space often invites them back in. It's the emotional version of, now that you're not asking anything of me, I feel like I can handle being near you again. But this doesn't mean they're ready to give you what you need. In fact, this cycle often leads people right back into the same emotional pattern, where you slowly start to hope again, give a little more, and open your heart, only to watch them retreat the moment things start to feel real again. Because once that emotional closeness builds back up, their nervous system kicks in with the same avoidance pattern. They haven't changed, they've just returned to the comfort zone that existed before things got deep. It's really important to understand this so you don't take their return as a sign of commitment or growth. It's not about you, it's about how much closeness they can tolerate. That's why some avoidants bounce in and out of relationships over and over. They crave connection, but only up to the point that it feels emotionally safe. And that safe zone is often just on the other side of your emotional availability. So when they reach back out after a period of silence, be honest with yourself. Are they showing up differently? Are they meeting your emotional needs? Or are they simply returning because your distance made them feel comfortable again? That question could save you from falling back into a cycle that only ever left you feeling confused, unseen, and emotionally worn down. One of the biggest mistakes people make when an avoidant comes back is assuming that reconnection equals readiness. But here's the truth. Just because they return doesn't mean they've changed. It doesn't mean they've done the inner work, faced their patterns, or built the emotional tools needed to create a healthy relationship. Sometimes they come back simply because the distance feels safe again, not because they've grown. This is where you need to slow down and really pay attention. Are they showing new behaviors? Are they taking emotional responsibility? Are they open to conversations they once avoided? Or is it still the same dynamic but with a more charming, short-term energy? Because if the emotional groundwork hasn't changed, the same relationship cycle will play out again. And that cycle usually looks like this. You reconnect, you feel hope, things feel good for a short while, and then they pull away again the moment emotional depth returns. Real change requires time, awareness, and consistent effort. Avoidant attachment patterns are deeply ingrained, often linked to early experiences with trust and vulnerability. It's not something a person fixes just because they miss you. Missing someone isn't the same as being ready for emotional intimacy. So don't confuse the warmth of reconnection with the stability of real readiness. They might want you back, but are they ready to stay in the emotional space you need? If you ignore the red flags in favor of hope, you risk walking right back into a relationship that still can't hold you. So be curious, be kind, but also be clear. Let their actions, not just their return, speak for whether they're truly ready this time. Because your peace deserves more than recycled promises. It deserves a relationship that actually grows with you. When an avoidant partner comes back, it can trigger a flood of emotions: relief, excitement, hope, and even a little fear. You might feel grateful that they returned, that they missed you, that maybe this time things could be different. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. You don't owe anyone gratitude for circling back into your life, unless they're showing up differently. Your role isn't to reward their return. It's to observe it, question it, and protect the progress you've made. It's easy to slip into the mindset of maybe I just needed to be more patient, or maybe this time they finally realized my worth. But don't let emotion override clarity. The avoidant may have missed you, but missing someone is not the same as being able to meet their emotional needs. So instead of being flattered, be curious. Instead of falling into old rhythms, pause and ask, what has actually changed? Have they addressed their avoidant tendencies? Are they now showing up with more communication, openness, and consistency? And most importantly, do you feel safe being emotionally honest with them now? Because a relationship can't work if you're still hiding parts of yourself just to keep the peace. Here's where your strength comes in. You don't have to be cold, but you do need to be clear. I don't rush back into connection without observing their actions. Words are easy. It's follow-through that tells the truth. If they're still avoiding hard conversations, still disappearing when things get emotional, or still minimizing your needs, then nothing has changed. You're not lucky they came back. You're allowed to ask for more. You're allowed to expect growth. And if they can't meet you there, it's okay to let them go again this time, not from pain, but from peace. Because clarity is the gift you give yourself. It's easy to confuse chemistry with compatibility. When an avoidant returns, the emotional pull can feel strong, maybe even stronger than before. You remember the passion, the highs, the way you felt deeply connected during the good moments. But here's the truth: healthy relationships aren't built on highs. They're built on emotional safety. And that kind of safety can't exist if one person is constantly pulling away every time things get real. Emotional safety means you can speak your truth without fear of being punished for it. It means your needs are met with understanding, not defensiveness. It means you don't have to walk on eggshells, edit your feelings, or suppress your vulnerability just to keep the peace. And when it comes to avoidant partners, this kind of safety doesn't appear just because they come back. It requires work on their part and yours. You have to ask yourself, can I bring my full self to this relationship now? Can I trust that when I open up I won't be met with silence or withdrawal? Can we sit in discomfort together, or will they run again the moment things get hard? These questions matter more than whether they missed you. Passion feels good, but it fades without stability. Love matters, but love without emotional safety turns into longing, not peace. Let's say they say all the right things. They tell you they've missed you, that they want to try again. That's a start, but it's not enough. Words need to be backed by consistent action. Have they grown in their ability to communicate? Do they respond to emotional moments with more presence, or are they still avoiding discomfort? Do they know how to hold space for connection, or are they just seeking the comfort of your closeness again? A secure relationship doesn't require you to shrink. It invites you to expand. You shouldn't have to hide your heart to keep someone close. You should be able to bring it fully forward, knowing it's not too much, knowing it's safe. So yes, chemistry is important. Connection matters. But if the foundation isn't safe, it won't last. Choose the relationship that lets your nervous system relax. That's what real love feels like. That's what you deserve. When someone avoidant comes back, it can feel comforting, familiar. Like maybe this time things will be different. But before you let that old door swing wide open, take a moment to remember how far you've come. You've done work to heal. You've learned hard lessons. You've started showing up for yourself in ways you didn't before. And that growth, it needs protecting, especially now. It's tempting to fall back into the old roles you played in the relationship. The role where you tiptoed around their moods, softened your needs, or carried the emotional load just to keep the peace. But slipping back into that old pattern will undo the progress you've made. You are not that version of yourself anymore. You're clearer now, stronger, more honest about what you need and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. So if they want another chance, let them earn it, not through words, but through consistent behavior. We don't rush in just because they say the right things. Take your time. Observe. Are they showing up differently? Do they handle tension with more maturity? Are they respecting your boundaries this time around? Lasting change doesn't happen overnight. It shows up over time in the little things, in the effort, in the follow-through. And if they can't meet you there, if their return is just a repeat of what you've already lived through, then you have every right to walk away again. Only this time you're not walking away because you're hurting. You're walking away because you love yourself enough not to shrink back into old versions of love that required you to disappear. Your growth is sacred. Don't trade it for temporary comfort. If they're truly ready, they'll rise to meet the new you. And if not, you're still moving forward, stronger than before. Let's wrap this up with the kind of clarity your heart deserves. Yes, avoidants often come back, but that's not the victory. The real question is, are they coming back with growth, or just with nostalgia? Throughout this video, we've talked about why avoidants return, why distance makes them feel safe, and why reconnection is not the same as emotional readiness. We've explored how to protect your peace, observe their behavior, not just their words, and how to stay rooted in your self-worth. You've worked too hard to heal, grow, and reconnect with yourself just to fall back into the same patterns that once left you feeling anxious, unseen, or not enough. Won't settle just because someone comes back. Coming back is easy. It's showing up consistently, emotionally, and with maturity. That's the real test. A relationship that requires you to abandon yourself is not love, it's a pattern. And your healing has taught you to recognize that difference. So here's your reminder: you're allowed to ask for more. You're allowed to walk away again, even if part of you still hopes. You're allowed to let go with love and with peace, because emotional safety is not a luxury. It's a basic requirement for any relationship that's meant to last. Thank you so much for watching this video. If it gave you insight, reassurance, or a sense of direction, please subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What part resonated most with you? What have you learned about yourself through this process? Your story matters. Your boundaries matter. And your heart is worth protecting, not just from pain, but from going backward when you were meant to move forward. You don't need just love. You need love that grows with you. And that's exactly what you deserve.